Welcome to the Dark Zone, an adventure racing podcast.
I think when you find a team with no ego and bucket loads of humility, and where your goal is together to get somewhere, and you can put that in front of everybody's personal needs to feel good or look tough or blah, blah, you actually just give your whole self to the team. And as a team, you put all of your energy in one bucket and you share it out.
Okay. You people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
You're going the wrong way! What? You're going the wrong way! He says we're going the wrong way.
Oh, he's drunk. How would he know where we're going?
Yeah, how would he know? Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Welcome to the Dark Zone Adventure Racing Podcast. This is your host, Brian Gatens. For today's episode, we are joined by the Mountain Designs Wild Women team, fresh off their win at the Legends Expedition Race, put on by guest of the podcast, Chris Dixon. The team consisted of Kim Beckinsale, who was the team captain, Alina McMaster, Cass Kimlin, and Dell Lloyd. Dell was great about getting this episode up and running, and we're very, very grateful to Dell for her work in making it happen. We go deep into their experience as an all-female team here, their joy and hard work in winning the race, the challenges on the course, including a lot of mud. They do a really nice job breaking down the race, and we're very happy to have them on the show. I also want to point out they are a super experienced team. Between the four of them, they have 78 years of adventure racing experience. And so for those of you who are newer to adventure racing, those who are students of the sport, you want to build your understanding of what we do here in the adventure racing community, you cannot ask for a better listen along the way. So thank you to Kim, Alina, Cass, and Dell for coming onto the Dark Zone. Sit back and relax and enjoy the show. As a listener of the Dark Zone, you know that we support Ascend Athletics. We encourage everyone to head over to ascendathletics.org and check out their new initiative called Invest in Her, an investment in the future of girls in places where access is limited. Ascend Athletics does a great job working with young women in Afghanistan and Pakistan through education, climbing, and other opportunities. We encourage all of our listeners to visit ascendathletics.org and check out Invest in Her. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for supporting Ascend. And remember, Ascend pays nothing for this sponsorship. We like what they do and are proud to pass along word of their good work. Welcome to the Dark Zone and Adventure Racing Podcast. This is your host, Brian Gatens. So we are joined from the other side of the world by the Mountain Designs Wild Women Adventure Racing team. They just won a big race down there in Australia. I'm going to turn first to Dell Lloyd. Fill us in on who they are, what they won, and what it means to them. Dell, welcome to the show. Take it away.
Thanks, Brian. It's a privilege to be on the show. We're super excited to be here with you. So Mountain Designs Wild Women, Kim, Alina, Cass, and I'm Dell. Kim is our team leader and an amazing advocate for women's sport in Australia. And has been leading the Wild Women for 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. So
from what I've gathered, yeah. Kim is an outright rock star when it comes to the Australian adventure racing scene. Is that a true statement, Kim?
Oh, look, my dancing isn't that great, but yeah, definitely running on rocks and doing all the adventurous stuff is definitely my passion. So that's probably more than half of my life is something to do with adventure racing.
Excellent. So, Dell, who else do we have there?
Alina, you should say hi.
Hi.
Now, if I'm correct, Alina is a world champion, but she's very, very loath to admit it. Is that true?
Possibly. I mean, I've been in the adventure racing scene for quite a long time, since 1997. It was my first race. I'm not great at dates, but I'm pretty sure it was about then. So yeah, it's been a while.
And I'm correct, there's a couple eco challenges in there too, as well as some world championships.
Yeah, done some eco challenges, Primal Quest, Southern Traverse, God Zone. I've been around.
If it exists, you've done it.
We lost some sleep last night because these guys got talking about Eco Challenge and we just had the best laughs. Oh my goodness, the stories. Hey,
I will tell you.
Anyway, that's on my other side of the cast.
So I'm the baby of the team, I suppose. I don't have anywhere near as much experience as these girls, but I'm really happy to be part of the team, and I've been racing with Kim for probably 10 years now, fairly regularly. So I've had a really amazing mentor to guide me on my adventure racing journey, and hopefully for still a long time to come yet.
So clearly the biggest thing that you bring to the table with all your experience is the fact that you've been racing together. And also I know there's different permutations of the team, but you have so much base and so much experience. Rarely do you come across a team where the youngest member in the team has 10 years experience. And so you've layered all this over time. And I have to ask, you just had a pretty big win. You had a big win down in the Legend. Let's work backwards. Let's talk about your most recent win, and then we'll back into the other things that you've done. So what race did you win, and how did the race go for you?
So we have just completed the Legend Expedition Race, and it's the second round that of that event. So in Australia, many people would be very familiar with the event XPD, which has been around for years and years and years. And so when Geocentric Outdoors decided to some of their events, such as GeoQuest and Hell's Bells, were taken over by Wild & Co. And so for probably at least 8 years, Wild & Co. took over Hell's Bells and GeoQuest, and XPD was still being run by Geocentric up until I think it was COVID years. So I think 2021 it got delayed. So with the finish of XPD and Chris sort of taking something over, he didn't want to he didn't know that he had the ability to do that same event. So he created the Legend Expedition Race, and Del, Alina and myself got to race as Mountain Designs Wild Women last year in the Jindabyne event. And the event was it was legendary. It was scenic, it was hard, it was tough. It just had so much of the Aussie adventure, and it was legendary. And so there was just no question as to whether we were going to come back and have another go. And so that's the event that we have now backed up and done again, and had the best result absolutely possible. So
we've had Chris Dixon on the show before, and I'll put a link in the show notes to that episode. And Chris he's a true believer. He loves the sport, loves the racing, is completely into it. For those who are not familiar with the Legend race, can you walk us through the overall distance of the race, the disciplines that were used there? How long did it take you? What are the numbers that you would wrap around the race?
Okay, so the approximate overall distance is more than 500 kilometres. The amount of time we had to complete the event was 6 days. This year, there was some last-minute course modifications that had to be made based on some water quality of one of the dams. So it probably cut out a little bit of some of one section of it. But I think we had ended up with 13 legs altogether.
With a linear course, right?
Yeah, big circle, heading sort of southeast and then heading sort of north up into the high Otways. The whole Otway area we sort of traversed on bike on pretty much everything. And then it was the tail end of the race was a sort of an 88-kilometre trek along what we probably anticipated to be a pretty flat, cruisy beach trek, but it was a hilly up, down, up, down, up, down.
Like 3,000 meters of elevation.
Yeah, that's a
And
beach.
in
That's nice and
between
flat.
that was a very short paddle of 13 kilometres, which actually took about over 4 hours due to a sudden loss of water.
Oh, I'd heard about that. Was it the engineers? They changed the dam. Am I right about that?
They dredged
That's right. They dredged it.
Yeah.
So we renamed it the mud wallow leg instead of the kayak leg.
Yeah.
We might
And so you were fully expecting water. You thought you'd be able to kayak and at 13K,
yeah.
right? You zip right down there.
Yeah, the first checkpoint was awesome. We'll come back to that later. But yeah, the Legends race is like the preeminent expedition race in Australia now. And it was in a beautiful spot up in the high country last year, all above 1,000 meters. And this year in Victoria. So most people, I don't know how good everybody's geography of Australia is, but kind of down the bottom of Australia on the Great Ocean Road. So like Google search Great Ocean Road, beautiful rocky coastline, obviously a road along the side, but just up into cool temperate rainforest and amazing mountain biking tracks and beautiful creeks and rivers. So yeah, it was a real treat to be here. And I'm from Victoria, so I need to give them kind of how it's feel. And they have blackberries, which I love the different vegetation all over Australia. So when we found blackberry plants, my lovely Queensland and New South Wales teammates, they were growing berries. Oh, we can eat the berries. Yeah, they're a pest in Victoria. But we were enjoying traveling through the country. And yeah, it was very, very cool.
And so in this race here, that is the 6-day race as it came together, it was 144 hours in total, about 500K. There were different cuts here and there. How long did it take you to cover the whole course? What was your winning time?
I don't know, actually.
We got back on Wacky Wednesday. We were out on the course long enough to forget what day it was. I mean, they have all funny names. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 days.
2 hours. Just under 2 hours.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So they say in adventure racing, there's the first day and then there's the last day, and then there's one big day in between, right? So who knows what day it is?
Yeah.
There. So you clearly you won this race, outright winners of the race. I realized that at the end of the race there was some drama with the other team when it came to navigational challenges that gave you the win. How did the race unfold at the very end? Because it was a dogfight until the finish.
Yeah.
It was quite fun on that final leg. We did keep passing each other back and forth. And I think it was that, on the last day you just want to keep pushing, but you're also really quite tired. And there comes a point where you have to just actually really consider what you're doing. And we had that point where we were, well, at least I kept walking into bushes, kept falling asleep.
Yeah, it happens.
And I just said, I think we're just moving too slow. We need to take a last final 20-minute nap, which we did, and it was certainly worthwhile. But then we were still, then we got ahead of them again. And then I guess halfway through, they just decided to really put on the rocket shoes and just bolted for home. And we just didn't have that in us, I think, at that point. But largely that was because of what happened in the leg before on the kayak or mud.
Yeah, you were tired from that, and it must have been a big. I mean, you're coming into the finish line, right? And the race is almost over, and you're running out of maps. I always like to say that that less and less maps in your hand. But it must have been psychologically really hard to go through that paddle, which you thought was going to be relatively simple, right? 13K, have it into a mud fest. Then you're tired, then you want to get done, and then you're racing. Like psychologically, it feels like there was a lot of weight on the team towards the end of the race. Am I right about that?
I think we knew that they hadn't done the full paddle. So I think it's probably worth telling the story, right? So we go out on this paddle, beautiful sort of estuarine lake thing, the sun's setting, we're going really fast, trying to get through before dark, paddling among these amazing reeds and tricky checkpoint, you have to pull in and climb 3 foot up the bank into the reeds to, whatever. But we were all good. We were get the next checkpoint. And then they just started running out of water. So we're paddling, and the water's getting thinner until you're in like 3 inches of water and the boat's not moving. So then you start like sticking your paddle in and scooping yourself along the mud with your paddle. And then we're really not going anywhere, and you kind of completely stop. And we just had to, like, we had a real think about what do we do? So we got out of the boat and we sank into mud above our knees. And you're stuck in the middle of water, like a mud flat. It's just a big mud flat.
And there's no place to go. It isn't like there's a shoreline. Like you can't like leave the water and go up on the shore. It's just, you're just a huge expanse of mud around you.
Mud, yeah.
And I'd like to add that it wasn't just mud. It was full of a lot of cow poo.
Oh yeah. Never don't ever put your hands in your mouth at that point. That's the big rule, right? Don't touch your eyes, touch your mouth.
Yeah, we had that conversation too. So anyway, we're in the middle of the mud. You can see the checkpoints. It's half a kilometre that way.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell are we going to get there? Like, how is this going to happen?
Yeah.
And I remember just looking around and going, like, how do we do this? And Kat said to me, we'll just keep paddling. We're still moving. Like 6 inches every bum shove with your paddle stroke. We'll get there. Anyway, Alina and Kim decided that we should try and portage. But the trouble is that the portage was in, like, reeds that were taller than our heads. So you you bum shoved or pushed the kayaks to the edge, and he had to climb onto a 3-foot bank with these, kayaks loaded up, blah, blah, blah. So you get and then they just smashed through the reeds. Like, we called Kim the bulldozer, but Kim and Ali, and I'm going to say it was really bold and tenacious to do that. This is the point at which the boys said, this can't be done.
Right, so the boys walked away from it, right? At that point, they're like, they threw the towel in, and they missed 2 checkpoints, I believe, that you received, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah. So but we need
we had actually got ahead of them on the previous leg, and we didn't know what our lead was, but by the encouragement that we got at the TA before we got out onto the paddle, by the sort of lack of really lots of questions, everyone was sort of hurrying us onto the water.
You could tell, they wanted you to get going, so they knew it was close.
Yeah, so we just started paddling as quickly as we could, thinking, the boys are coming. So we had no idea how far back they are because no one's allowed to tell us. So we just got on and paddled our guts out. And so what happened was we were out there doing this drag. It took us more than 2 hours to get 2 checkpoints.
Okay.
And we, over that time...
Which 2 hours doesn't sound much, but if you were paddling it
would have
taken
been 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, right. And so that's where it gets really hard mentally, right? Because distance and time are relative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, okay.
And so when we were, when we'd sort of seen this checkpoint more than 500 metres away, we were dragging and dragging and dragging. And I looked up, went back down to the shore to see how close we were. And I went, we're still more than 200 metres away. We've got to go another 200. So we've just gone up another level of energy and enthusiasm and just dragged and dragged and dragged. And Al was on the front just pushing, and I'm pushing her in the back. And we've got 2 straps. Like, thank God we took the straps with us. And we were falling over and then just getting up again and then, bashing down. And as I sort of looked again and it was right beside us. I'm like, oh, my God, there's a checkpoint. And we just thought no one else is going to do this.
Right.
They're going to
try.
That
was so hard. You knew that you clearly it was going to kill them to get that far because you had fought your way to it. Okay.
So part of the event mandatory equipment is to take a camera. So we got out the GoPro, and I've got the GoPro out, and I've filmed Del getting punching the checkpoint. I filmed us with our boats, and then we did a little bit of a video of us when we were then dragging them back and then exiting back into this mud. And because we just thought no one else is going to even try that. They're going to dump the boats on the side and then try and run up and get the checkpoint run back. But there was a very clear rule that said you must stay within 25 metres of your kayaks at all times on that leg, on any kayak leg.
Right. So because nobody would dump the kayak, run without the kayaks and they go back. Because that would be a strategy that people would employ because the kayaks were so hard to carry.
Yeah, exactly. And so we were adamant that we were going to do the right thing, and we did, and we videoed our evidence of doing that. And so we then paddled. It was pitch black. The next checkpoint was mud, and it was right on the other side of the lake. So we had no option but to just try and paddle.
Well, we were paddle. I was in the back. So Kim was in the front paddling. I was outside the boat pushing it with the mud, and it was that really thick, squelchy, it's not fast mud at all.
It's like peanut butter.
And I could get
Sucky.
stuck, passable at one point. Yeah.
Yeah. It was mud that you could easily get stuck in.
Yeah.
We didn't lose any shoes, but some other teams lost shoes.
I saw a picture of someone who had a towel wrapped around their foot with duct tape as if that was their new shoe because the shoe was gone forever. It's been donated to the mud gods.
Yeah, left in the mud.
Under it. There was one bit where I had to push the boat towards Cass and we're levering ourselves out of the mud. We were both like mid-thigh in this stuff. Oh.
Yeah. We did a race. We did Iterra in 2019 and paddling at night, and we come to the end of a Scottish loch, and there's 4 of us in the team, and we thought we had a big long paddle in front of us. We had saw a blue line at the end of the loch. We got there and it just stopped, and it was boat out of the water, and we dragged those boats for miles. There was no water to put them into, but it's amazing how, and you will all relate to this with your experience, is that you are just in the middle of these somewhat hellish conditions, and you're like, well, this is our life now. We have to keep going.
Yeah.
Like there's no quitting. There's no walking away from it. There's no making a phone call. Like the only way to get out is to go through. But to your point, it was like you went through, but and then you got the checkpoint along the way because you could have just turned and taken a different direction. But strategically, you knew that was going to be a big get for other teams. And so therefore that really secured you the win because the other teams abandoned those checkpoints.
I think also, as we said before, we've got many, many years of experience, and we know that things like that happen in adventure races. There's, those legs where you're hiker biking or you're throwing your bike to get through some thick forest, and why you've got your bike, you're not really quite sure, but you happen to have it and you're meant to keep it. So you got to work out how you get it through, and you can be traveling. It might take you an hour to go a kilometre, and that's just part of it. And I think if you don't have that experience, as a team, you might be thinking, well, we can't do this. This is not right.
And this is not right was definitely going through our minds. Like, this is a bit crazy, but also we had 2 of the most experienced adventure racers in Australia on the team who were like, this is not humanly impossible. It will be very hard, but we will do it. Waist deep in mud, kayak above your head, completely plastered, smashing through. But you know what? And, and Ali said at one point, well, what are we going to do? It's not like we're not going to get the checkpoint. So let's get going.
Yeah, exactly. The conversation stops. You stop moaning about how hard it is, and you're just kind of like, well, this is who we are now, and we're going to go in that direction, and when it's over, it's over. So I've done some math here. Speaking about experienced adventure racing teams, so you shared that there's almost 80 years of experience between the 4 of you, racing experience, and I added up your ages. You're 197 years old combined. Right. So I mean, by the way, you're all nodding your head and smiling to the people at home that are horrified that I told you how old you all are. You're 197. But what I don't want to let go too far into the conversation with is that your win as an all-female team was the first of its kind.
Well, I suppose for when Elena and I both raced in mixed teams at a very high level. And Al was super top of the world, and I sort of was lucky enough to win one of this race, so the XPD in 2013 down in South Australia with Mountain Designs. And I, in my career of adventure racing, was at the point where I didn't know, because of your age, I didn't think I was fast enough to be able to continue pushing myself with the boys, with a mixed team, because at the start of the race, it just used to almost kill me because I just could not go that fast. And for me, the next thing personally that I wanted to be able to get out of the sport was to be able to lead a team and navigate, because that's, the hugest part of adventure racing is that navigation. So I was trying to develop those skills while I was still racing with Mountain Designs. But when we raced, I didn't get an opportunity to navigate unless someone was almost dead. So for me in the sport, that was my next goal. And so luckily, I put forward a proposal to Mountain Designs. Would they be willing to sponsor a women's team, because adventure racing just did not have enough women in the sport. And I felt that part of what I wanted to do personally was to be able to grow and nurture and motivate, encourage more women to not only get into the sport but learn all of the skills, so that they were a genuine, worthy part of the team who was fully capable across all disciplines. And so that's probably the big philosophy behind Mountain Designs Wild Women. And so, Cass was in the original Wild Woman team with me. And we started off probably with like GeoQuest Tells Bells. And then my first leading expedition race, Al was in the team we did an XPD in Tasmania. And with one of our other original Wild Women, we completed that course. We had an absolutely great race. And I think we were just out sprinted at the end by the men's teams. So we've always been against the men's teams, just like, it's just so close. And the events often finish with a bike or a paddle where the guys are just stronger. And so with this one finishing, having like really short, fast legs at the start and then this really long, hard bit at the end, we as women were able to just, use other things that we have to, I suppose, achieve that result. And, and I suppose we've always wanted to do well, never thought that was actually going to be possible.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I've raced only a couple of races with the Wild Women. I've never been beaten by a team of 4 men while I've been hanging out with Kim, and I like that. And I think we're all used to, we've all raced mixed teams. We're all used to being kind of dragged around a bit and just having to be the person who keeps up. But when you race in a team of women, especially one that's got Kim's ethos in it, it is really empowering. And, there wasn't a huge depth of field. But we deserved that win. We went really hard. We went fast. We were smart. We used all of our skills and experience. Some things we didn't cover, we had people vomiting on the first stage, and we had food poisoning or something in the middle, and we kind of worked together and we looked after each other. We had a heap of fun. We did all the right things, super good humility, good self-care, having a quite a lot of fun along the way. The navigation was accurate. We smashed it. We went really flipping hard. On the bike, we were towing, we were carrying each other's gear, we were, encouraging each other. We flew. We were absolutely banging it. So, when I'm looking back, what did we do less well in this race? There's not a lot of things on the thing. It was one of those races where actually everything went right for us. And in that mud puddle, we knew we had masses of experience, heaps of bloody mindedness, and we were darn well going to get through. And when we were smashing through the reeds and diving through the mud, one of the things on our minds was, wonder how many other people are going to give this a go. And we were, we didn't muck around either. We were like, right, get the job done, let's go. And so, I think we've already got the sleep strategy pretty right. So we deserved the win. We really worked for it, and super proud.
What do you credit your longevity in the sport?
I think for me, so I've probably been in it the longest. And it's something, I just loved it. I had a amazing mixed team, and we raced together all the time. We were Team ARWS, and I had some really good experiences, and I raced with my husband the whole time, which was fantastic. And then I guess I had kids, and so that put me out for a while, and different things happened. We started our own business, things got very busy, and so I kind of stopped for a while.
But that's also a bit of a blessing, because those were years that you didn't grind your body to a nub. You took it easy on your hips and your right. So you kind of took those years that you took off, and I put that in quotes on purpose because you weren't off. You were busy doing other things that prevented those overuse injuries that could have come if you didn't take that break from the intense physical activity.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, like, I've always kept active, and I did other little races here and there, you know, multi-sport type races or just whatever. But I did have a bit of a time away from any kind of competition. And then it started back again for me as my kids sort of got a bit older. I wanted them, I think they had a kind of a, I don't know, something about the fact that they must have known mum and dad were pretty good at things.
Mm-hmm. And
as a result, I felt like they didn't want to put themselves out there, because even though we never had any expectations for them, I kind of have this feeling that they didn't want to do something because they might not win. And so I said, well, okay, said to myself, I'm going to start going in random competitions. And I just went in, you know, like off-road triathlons or a mountain bike race or a multi-sport race or something like that, just to show it. You know, when I first went back, I had my first child at 40, so, you know, I'm not a young mum either. And so back in my late 40s, I started again just to show that it doesn't matter where you come or how you go. It's if you enjoy it, do it. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. That's fine. But if you enjoy it, have a go. You don't need to do it to win. You just need to do it to enjoy it. And sometimes for me, I like the competition because it makes me push myself that bit further, which I like. If I just go out by myself for a ride, I just plod along and I think about something.
Yeah, I agree. I think psychologically, I think we do very well when there's something waiting for us. Like, I know, like, when the race season ends and I have, like, my kryptonite is like November and December, because like the race season's over and the holidays are here and I'm kind of aimless and I make terrible choices when it comes to training and nutrition. And I always go into a hole. So to your point, having a thing on the horizon that is kind of scary and kind of hard serves as a motivating tool.
Yeah.
I think just talking about kind of the sports and longevity. So my story is a little bit like Ali. You know, I had an amazing mixed team. Like, I love them all like brothers, but I stopped to have kids and they all got broken and injured and it wasn't going to happen anymore. But the passion for going out and having amazing experiences, I'd love expedition racing more than the short races, hands down, because it's a journey and you get to go out and live in the bush for a week with your backpack and some mates. You know, there's no technology. There's like, it's just so
it's the greatest. I agree.
It's just so amazing. And so I had a bit of a break while we had kids and came back feeling like I wasn't going to be that fast. So being able to join the expedition team has been really cool, and I think it's something about the sport and the community that makes you want to keep doing. But Cass did not have a break for kids.
Oh, I had it. So I've I did. I guess the variety in the community and I suppose my passion for my teammates and the people that I love brought me back to the sport really quickly after I had my little girl.
She's only 3. Cass is a 3-year-old.
She's 3.
And Cass is still young.
So yeah.
I like that. By the way, I love this team, by the way, that and this will make people's hearts sing, is that the young person is in their early 40s.
So Cass did coast to coast, world multi-sport champs, carrying her young, unborn baby without even knowing. So her little bub got to do coast to coast as well.
So she actually won the 2-person division.
Yeah. So I was a little bit of ignorance is bliss on that one. I was 12 to 14 weeks pregnant when I raced coast to coast in the elite category. Yeah, so I mean, coming back from that and being a mum, which the other girls all know that has thrown some big challenges into racing and consistent training. But for me, these guys are my biggest mates. They're my extended family, and my love of hanging out with them and all the other wild women, and our tri-adventure group, brought me back to the sport really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Which I think is what adventure racing does. You develop really strong bonds with the people that you race with. You see them at their best and you see them at their worst, and you really have to work together. And I love that. And that's what I love about adventure racing.
There's definitely a human dynamic in place in which when you go through strenuous experiences with like-minded people, that bonds you in such a way that other experiences don't. I say it on the show from time to time. It's war stories without the war. Right. The fact that you're together, that you slog through mud, and the fact that you deal with the sleep monsters and the deprivation and the sore feet, and you go through that together, and you bring yourself across the finish line as a group. There's a cementing between of personalities and people that is it's fantastic. And I'm sure that other experiences recreate that in other parts of the world. It's not exclusive to adventure racing, but I've seen it come alive the most in adventure racing. That's where it really kind of comes alive. And I will agree with you, Del. I love adventure racing in all forms. For me, the expedition races are really where it's at, in my opinion. I mean, just to shut the phone off, put it in a bag. You get 3 people around you, four of your mates. It's you, the maps, and a chunk of time to go do something. I love unplugging from the world in that regard. So I agree with you. I turn down no races, but I really enjoy an expedition race. So you're right about that. So let me ask you this question. So we talk a lot about the things that you need to do to stay competitive, right? To add to your longevity. What are the things that you avoided to make yourselves better? Like, what did you not do during your breaks? What did you not do throughout your career that would have taken away from your ability to compete? What did you avoid?
Pam, you just didn't stop. That was the way to do it.
So my full-time job is a PE teacher. And when I was very young, I was a runner. And I did, in Australia, I would be top 10 in my age as a 14, 15-year-old. And towards the end of my school years, I thought, you can't make money out of being a runner. You got to have a profession. So, and I always wanted to be a PE teacher. So, and to this day, 36 years of teaching, that's my job. And I think for me, working in an environment with young people keeps me young. Mm-hmm. I spent about 15 years doing triathlon to a very high level. After, I think, when I was in the early 90s, I started doing triathlon. And I had a swimming and running background, so I just had to learn how to ride a bike, which wasn't that easy for me, but I'd ridden a bike, but just not fast. And I love the challenge of that. And I think as my sister just reminded me the other day as well, that as a kid, I used to watch on TV Survival of the Fittest, and I wanted to do that. But for some reason, I lived in a city. It just wasn't what it was. I got my job and I became a PE teacher. And I love that. And as I've got older, I've just never been afraid to just try something a little bit different to push myself. And so when you did triathlon, at first I thought, oh, this is great because you swim and you ride and you run and you get a break. But it was super repetitive and more likely to cause injuries because it was all this running on the road. So while I was doing triathlon, I also, just before I started doing super well, I did a few mountain running races and I did really well. And I just had this skill about being able to run down a hill fast. So all of a sudden my triathlon coaches were saying, oh, no, you can't do that anymore. And I thought, hang on, I love doing lots of different things. And so I think that is the key, is that just doing things differently and never doing too much of one thing that you get sick of it.
And so that's what you avoided, right? You avoided those repetitive behaviors over time, right? You didn't like, we see it very often. There's a little bit of insanity in America when it comes to youth sports. And if someone shows a skill set like in baseball or in tennis, that's all they will do all the time. And by the time they're 18 to 19 years old, they're developing joints have fallen apart and they've grown to hate the sport. There's so many, you see these high school phenoms go off to college and they're almost relieved to get injured because the pressure's off them to actually do it. And so one thing you avoided, right, coming back to the question that I asked, one thing that you avoided was you avoided repetition, right? You mixed it up a little bit. You also avoided a long layoff. That because you're a PE teacher and because you had that in your life, it kept you moving. You never got rusty. You never, you don't need to go back to basics if you don't leave the basics. And the third thing you did, which is important, was you were you have a job where you're around young people. And young people are natural energy, they're batteries. And many adults, myself included, I work with kids also. I draw energy from them. It helps keep me young also. So you're right on about that.
Definitely. And just that, and also for me, it's about then showing that you can actually keep doing things for way longer than you ever originally thought possible. So, when I was 15 and a runner and, early 20s, I thought, oh, no, I'm too old to do that. And in triathlon, the same thing. I was at a high level, and all the money and funding was all going to really young people, and I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and it was like, no, you're too old to do really well. We're supporting all these young people, and I thought, and I just kept trying all these amazing different things, and I had a bit of a success, and I'm a pretty quiet person. And I just push myself as hard as I can possibly go. But then also, part of I've also being a teacher is the coaching side of things. So my brain, I just love to analyse technique and doing things smarter. So when I ride a mountain bike, my mountain bike training isn't about how fast I can ride. It's how fast I can ride using the least amount of energy possible. Mm-hmm. And that is for everything. So paddling technique, I change my paddling technique throughout the whole paddle because I get tired. It's not my natural thing. So if I try paddle with the same technique for the whole paddle, I'll just get fatigued. So I paddle like this and then I paddle like that. And I think that's part of the learning process that you just gain with those years of experience.
I think also to adventure racing, and we've seen it time and time again, is that the most physically strong team is not guaranteed a good race. That there's a lot more than that. There's a lot more to it, the mental component. What are you going to say? Yes, go ahead, Alina.
I was going to say, like, in my experience, it really is the teamwork. It's the navigation and the teamwork. There's no point going really fast in the wrong direction is the first key thing. And I still notice that, if I do an orienteering race, I'm hopeless, and you get these, I call them old, and I am old, but they're even older than me. And they're so good at that really fine navigation.
They're amazing. They blow right by you and you're standing around with the map in your hands and they're zooming. It's like, where'd they go? Right. And they're running back and forth in front of you. It's like,
yeah, exactly. And that always brings me back to, it really is. You've got to go in the right direction. But then there's no point going in the right direction if you're falling apart as a team. So, and going back to past years, my team, we were such an amazing team, and we weren't the fittest, we weren't the fastest, but we certainly had the most fun. We were the only team that were out there winning and singing songs and making jokes and stuff at the same time, and people would always comment on that, like, wow, what's
somebody else doing?
And it was that's the whole part of it. You stay upbeat, you stay and you look after each other. And I mean, that's the thing that we do really well together is that, it's fine to be towed and it's fine to tow someone. It's fine to take someone's bit of equipment to help them up the hill a bit faster. And that's, you don't need to feel bad about it. You don't need to feel good about it. It's just, you just do it. And I think that's what works really well in an all-female team that a lot of, no offense, guys out there, but you find it really hard to ask for help, and you find it really hard to, especially get help from a female. And that was where our team back in the old days was amazing, because I certainly got towed at the start, but I think I was probably the only girl out there that ever towed their teammates. And I towed mine frequently towards the end.
I think when you find a team with no ego and bucket loads of humility, and where your goal is together to get somewhere, and you can put that in front of everybody's personal needs to feel good or look tough or you actually just give your whole self to the team. And as a team, you put all of your energy in one bucket and you share it out. So if you need to sing somebody a song to keep them awake, or you need to carry some gear or receive a push, or somebody say, I'll just carry that, give it to me, and just say, fine. There is no purpose other than together getting where you want to go as fast as you can. And you don't let anything get in the way of that. And I think in this particular race, we had the opportunity to do really special teamwork and self-management. So the first leg of this Legends race, Alina did the first 5 hours on a negative amount of fuel. So leg one of the race, Alina's feeding the fish during the paddle. And we're running along the beach, and I'm thinking, okay, so she's vomited her breakfast, not drunk anything. 3, 4, 5 hours later, and Ali did amazing, personal body management. And as a team, we were like, okay, where's Ali? Where's Ali? Has she had any food yet? Has she been able to drink? Do you want a jelly snake? Do you want this? What do we need to do to keep you moving? But masses of experience. Personal self-management was amazing. The next leg, we were all going along fine, and then suddenly Kim gets really sick and is curled up on the grass vomiting. If you weren't working as a real team, you could have let that get in the way. We just had a quick sleep, waited for her to perk up, carried her bags for a while, and then got on with the job. But again, it was because none of us panicked or thinking together, how do we get through this? And just that teamwork is really, really cool. And frankly, it keeps me coming back to the sport, because I love people and I love hanging out with people, and the dynamics is it's really special. It's really special.
It sounds like Kim is encouraging Cass to say something. Cass.
I don't say a real lot. And I think just circling back to things that we've avoided to keep us going. We've all avoided the I can't mentality. That things that's too hard, that's too difficult. There's too many barriers. I'm too slow. We've all jumped into races where we haven't been as fit as what we'd like to be, or you've got those work and family challenges where I can't get on the bike today. I can't, we've done really well to work around those. So what can I do? How can we overcome that problem, and not being afraid to jump in and have a crack. It would have been easy. I jumped into this race 6 weeks ago, probably not at my highest level of fitness, and when I first said yes, then my next thought once I'd said yes to Kim was, what have I just done? Oh my God, this is, I'm going to be horrible. And you go through that negative thought cycle, but then you figure out a way to get around it. And it is what it is when you get into the racing, and your team really supports you along the way. And, when you're not at your best, then the team carries you. And I think that's been a really important thing, is to where we've kept that longevity in the sport, because we're just not afraid to have a crack even though things are tough.
Well, what you don't do is you don't quit before the race starts. A lot of people quit before the race starts, and you don't do that.
I think it's really easy to say, I can't do that. I'm not fit enough. I'm not I'm not this. I'm too busy. And that's the beauty, I think, about adventure racing, is that you don't have to be super fit. You don't have to be, to have a good race. We know lots of adventure racers who don't run. Fantastic adventure racers who, they never run in a race. They only walk. So I think that's been a big key.
But also, but go ahead, Del.
Oh, just I love what Cass just said about, that don't let the I can't mentality get in at any stage. And, lots of people say, this is familiar, right? Oh, how do you do that? Oh, I could never do that. Yeah. Oh, my goodness, I can't believe you. Yeah. How do you find time? Like, oh, well, I get up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and then, and then I have a rule that I shouldn't start training after 10 o'clock at night. And, so you find the time, and you're making an I can, and you sort of embrace that imperfection that you're talking about. And I think that's a cool thing about it. Nobody has the perfect race. It's not possible to have the perfect race where everything is spot on. And so you have to embrace that imperfection and come in a bit, am I a bit half-baked for this race? You've got to be, just let it go. And
and I think we've talked a lot this week about increasing participation in adventure racing and particularly women. And I think that's a key message that needs to get out there, that you don't have to be amazing to do an adventure race, to finish an adventure race. You obviously need to have a bit of grit and determination, but you can just go in with what you've got, and then you figure out how you're going to get to that end point. I think sometimes we see what comes out in the media for adventure race. You see a hard slog, and it's and we talk about the epic moments, and oh my God, we hiked a bike up this hill for hours and hours, and sometimes maybe people look at that and go, oh, I just couldn't do that. So I think maybe that's something that the adventure race community needs to embrace a little bit, is drawing in that idea that everyone can do adventure racing in their own capacity.
We're sitting here now, and we finished a couple of days ago, but we're actually in the back room of where the finish line kind of is, and we're actually waiting for a women's team to come and finish. And they've just another all women's team. They're on day 5, day 5, and I'm sure they've had a lovely time out there, and they've just been slowly trekking, ticking off each leg. They've slept a lot, and, that's fantastic. Good on them.
I think also, too, and much like all of you, I've had the chance to race across a variety of different sports, right? Triathlon, bicycle racing, whatever it is. I found adventure racers that the barrier to entry for personality for teammate is relatively easy. That the thing you have to jump over to be a good teammate is work hard, do your best to carry each other. Don't be a quitter. I'm not saying you can't quit a race, but don't have that negative mentality right away, and your team will wrap its arms around it.
And like we said before, I think longevity is really about doing all sorts of stuff, and training for adventure racing can be anything. It doesn't have to be something hard. You can go out with your family and walk up a hill. That can be your training. It doesn't have to be assessed as actual, in quotes, training. Yep. It can be just having a lot of fun.
I asked that. I had a chance to talk to Jesse Spangler. He did very well at a race at the race this past year, and I said, "Well, what's your secret?" And he says, "I just try to do something every day."
Yeah. And I say everyday life things are also training, like carrying your shopping bags, 2 big heavy shopping bags, and walking home with them. That's something that normal people don't do anymore, because they don't, get in the car, put the shopping in the car, use a trolley. So just more of those original lifestyle movements that we used to do as human beings much earlier than our modern times. I was, one of my things is with the kids at school is sometimes do things the hard way. Not because it's not the fast way, it's the hard way, and it'll make you fitter, tougher, more resilient in the future.
If someone is listening to this right now, and if they want to dip their toes into the water, if they want to try adventure racing, but it feels like a big thing to them. What should they think, but what should they do as a result of this?
Well, this is where I came into adventure racing because I knew Kim. Kim actually took me away in some representative sport teams as a phys ed teacher, and probably was somebody that I looked up to. So those of you that don't know, Kim also, when she's not racing and training and teaching full time, also runs a business called Try Adventure, which pretty much offers adventure racing style training, coaching, and social aspects. So I think finding a group of people that you can sort of hook into like that that are close to you. I know that's difficult in some places that just doesn't exist. So seeking out people who have that experience and can sort of guide you. Kim and Jan run adventure style sessions most weekends that people of all different levels can rock up to. I know you've had people lately e-bikes and all those kind of things, and we make those sessions work for whoever turns up. I mean, again, that fosters that bit of teamwork and working together. When you're pushing somebody else's bike, giving them a tow to help them along. So I think definitely seeking out people who have that experience, and I think in general, adventure racers are pretty happy to share their experiences and give their tips, and also to look at where you can get into some adventure racing. And I think that's Chris in our local area or back in Queensland has recently just started to put on a number of shorter races, those 6-hour races, which haven't existed in southeast Queensland for maybe the past 10-ish years. So that's given a really good opportunity for people to, I guess, to dip their toe into the water of adventure racing without committing to 24 or 48 an expedition race. So yeah, I think that's probably a key for people to get in there.
Yeah, I think I'd say similarly, find an event that's going to be your goal and doesn't have to be a big one, and then find some good people. So if you live in southeast Queensland, you are sorted because it has an amazing community. But if not, then find somebody else with the right personality who's happy to be positive and give it a go, and just see if you can get to an event, and you will find people there who will inspire and help and nurture you. You don't have to have a brilliant bike. You don't have to be any good at kayaking. You don't even need to be able to run. I would say find an early opportunity to learn to navigate. So I have managed to avoid this for almost my entire adventure. I have 3 excellent navigators on my left. I had other roles. The only time I navigated is when Kim made me. She said, "You want to do some navigation?" I said, "Nah." She said, "Here's the map. We're here."
I'm good. You guys go ahead. I'll catch up.
It's 1 kilometer. What was it? And I can do basic stuff, but if you can. It doesn't actually matter how fast you're going if you're going in the right direction. So maybe orienteering or other opportunities to learn how to get confident with a map, because it's always nice to know where you're going or where you are.
We found that here in America, a local orienteering club is a gateway to adventure racing. You go to an orienteering meet because the maps are super specific, so they're easier to follow. That's one thing. Yeah. And on top of that, it's a several-hour event. It's 10K long. You're out in the woods for 2-3 hours, and by virtue of where we live, we're boxed in by civilization. So no matter how lost you are, if you just walk in a certain direction, you're going to come to a road, and a road gets you back to the start, right? So that's but I think orienteering is a huge place to find people, and to your point too, find a community that find people who are interested and just hang out with them. And And the thing is that people will accept you if you're a good teammate, right? If you don't drag down the group, if you come prepared, right, ready to move. Like, don't be the person in the parking lot that's fumbling with their stuff. Like, be ready when you get out of your car. Be ready to go. Like, make it easy to hang out with you. I think you're right about that.
They're talking about me. What's going on?
They told me, Del. So we're just about at the hour mark now. I know that you're waiting for the other all-women team to come in from they're getting their full money's worth out of the course. So you guys left money on the table. You came in too quick. Now you're hanging out. What I'd like to do, and Kim is the team captain, as someone who is the band leader, if you will, of all this energy and all of this. I'd like to give you the final word on the race that you just had, how you look at it, the big picture, however you want to close this out. What do you want to say?
Well, I just would first like to thank these amazing human beings for spending, taking the commitment to spend, that huge chunk of their lives. It's not just this week, and just making it to the start, because that's the part that often gets forgotten, is just getting to the start line and how hard that is. And just for being, the best people ever. And I'm speaking like really honestly, because, everyone's got their lives, and I've got 3 mums here with me, 3 amazing mums, and I'm not a mum. So sometimes I'm not the most nurturing person in the world, but these guys are. And I tend to just go bulldozer forward, and I can forget. But having them on my team and our team and being wild women makes me a better person. And I know that what we then do is just because of who we are and what we do, we then help make other people better people. And we're honest, we're quiet, we're good people. And we want other women in the sport to have that opportunity to think, I can do this. We just know how good it is to get out in nature and spend time with great people, and you just find things in your life that you never thought were humanly possible. And as, in humanity, this sport gives us that opportunity to find ourselves and just, change lives. So, I just want to thank the girls. And also, the one thing we haven't talked about is all the amazing people in the background of adventure racing are your volunteers, and, the people that put out checkpoints before the race, pick them up after the race, spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours at TIA is doing the same old when every different person comes in, and they just are gold. And so, the whole sport, the racers, the race directors, the volunteers, all of the officials, we've just got this massive community, and I think that what makes this sport so special. And for those people out there who haven't done an adventure race, just sign up for one, have a go, and you just might find that you're more amazing than you thought you were, and that you can do great things to help others.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of the Dark Zone Adventure Racing Podcast. Thank you to Kim, Del, Alina, and Cass for coming on to the show. They were fresh off the course, and they were fantastic. They love the sport. They love what it has done for them. They love giving back to it. They take pride in their win, the first of its kind, to have an all-female team dominate such a strong expedition race. Thank you for being a listener to the Dark Zone. If you like what you hear here, please make it a point to stop by your platform of choice and like and click and subscribe and rate and review and all of that. The algorithm likes it when you do that, and the Dark Zone loves having you as a listener. So once again, thanks for being here. If you keep racing, we'll keep talking. Be safe.